So I think I'm at the point to where I feel like it is more than likely that Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns go their separate ways at the end of the 2025 season. Now, you can debate whether this is the right decision, the wrong decision, who will be able to make the right decision, who should be making that decision, who should be hired in place of him. I'm not here to debate that in this video today. Maybe a later video, but not in this video today. What I want to focus in on is very simple. Why do I think it is likely that Kevin is being fired? I'm going to go through every reason I have that makes me believe that there is a strong possibility that Kevin is going to get fired. We'll talk about that in just a second, but first, let me thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. All right, the number one reason, I'm not doing this in numerical order, right? I'm just numbering these reasons for organizational purposes. But one reason why Kevin Stefanski is most certainly getting fired at the end of the year is his record over the last two seasons, right? Football is a results-based business. As much as we love to fall in love with the process, and I think the process is important when it comes to hiring a new coach, and I have a whole video about that. For Kevin, the results end up mattering, and for any head coach, the results end up mattering, right? You can have some losing early on in your run. You can have some losing after you lose a couple of players in your run. But the level of losing can't be past a certain point. We talked about this last year. One of the things that having a two-time coach of the year should ensure you is that you have a floor as a football team that's above about a 300 win percentage. It seems like the Browns will be under a 300 win percentage no matter what happens the rest of the year. And that's not really providing a floor. Yeah, at best, the Browns can be a 5-win team, which will be sub 300, right? Like you want to be able to win 6, 7, or 8 games because of the floor that your coach provides. And there was a time where it felt like Kevin provided that floor because of his strengths and what he brought to the table as a head coach. But having 2 seasons dip under that, and that just gets people fired a lot of the times. It got Mike Vrabel fired from Tennessee. It will get a lot of coaches fired. It got Bill Belichick fired, right? It's just hard to have 2 seasons like this, regardless of what excuses you can throw at it, and not get fired, because the whole point of hanging on to a coach is believing that that coach gives you some kind of meaningful floor. And if the coach doesn't give you a meaningful floor, then what's the point? And I think that's a big issue that the Browns have run up against, right? Kevin doesn't provide you that 6-win floor that you would want from a coach that has the accolades that he has, and that indicates that there's something wrong there. The second reason I believe Kevin is getting fired, and some of these reasons are going to be more about what Kevin has or has not done in his job as a Cleveland Browns head coach, and other things are going to be just me reading the tea leaves, right? The second reason I think Kevin's being fired is because it feels like the crows are circling Kevin Stefanski right now. It just seems like we're getting answers in the press. We're getting reports that you only really get when they're getting ready to fire somebody. Case in point, Kevin Stefanski was asked about his future. He wasn't definitive, right? They asked him about next year, and he was saying stuff like, I'm hopeful, and, it's been a privilege to coach this team, but he wasn't being definitive about what he hopes for next year and that he's going to be here. Like, he usually talks more committed to next year than he was in that press conference. It tells me at the very least there's uncertainty with Kevin Stefanski about whether he's going to return. I bet he's probably inquired through specific channels about his job security, and he's not getting back the answers that he wants. And I'm sure that certain channels that are usually open to Kevin Stefanski, as far as communication goes, have gone dark, and he's noticed that, right? It just seems like somebody who internally is not secure in his ability to come back in the way that usually Kevin is secure to come back. Also, you have Andrew Berry meeting with those two former GMs. A lot of people speculated that this had something to do with like DePodesta's old role. I don't think that was the case. I think that smelled like somebody inquiring about, potential head coaching searches and who guys have heard about based on their connections and all of that, and what that process could look like and what a potential head coach search committee could look like for the future. You have the report, I believe, you got the report from Jeremy Fowler, who, again, very connected, have literally seen him interact in the Browns building with the Browns personnel multiple different times. Like me personally, I've seen Jeremy Fowler have conversations with Andrew Berry, have conversations with Browns front office executives and ownership. I know that he's connected to there from actually seeing it at different events that I've been at, where there's been media access to these guys. And he's saying that the Browns have done a preliminary research on a potential head coach change, which kind of lines up with the meeting that they had with Chris Ballard and all of that. Well, not Chris Ballard, but whoever they got in the interview with a couple of days ago, right? So it just feels like we're the report about Andrew Berry having a say in the Browns head coaching hire. All this stuff only really comes out when the Crows are circling, and it feels like the Crows are circling Kevin Stefanski. It's also worth noting, right, at other times where Kevin Stefanski's job security has been rumored about to the point that it's been rumored about, there's usually a report that drops that says definitively Kevin's job is not at risk, right? It happened last year around the Thursday night game where, there was the Albert Breer report that the Browns are happy with Kevin and don't see any reason to move off of him. You've not gotten that report one time this year. The closest thing you've gotten to that kind of a report was, ironically enough, from Albert Breer about how easy of a job Kevin will have finding a new job if he were fired, which again indicates a coach that understands that they might hit the open market. I think everything that we're seeing from reading the tea leaves is indicating in, I think, a very obvious way that Kevin does not feel like he is secure in this job anymore, and that the Browns are at the very least inquiring about replacing him, and not 100% sure about bringing him back. And once you're at that point, you probably just got to follow through with it, right? Like once you're filing the divorce papers, you probably just got to sign them and send them in, right? And it feels like that's what's going on here again. You're not really hearing Kevin talk and sound like a man who knows that he's coming back next year, which he did sound like last year. You're hearing somebody who's tentative to talk to the future, who speaks of the future as mysterious. I don't think Joe Bitonio gets out there and says the stuff that he says about Kevin Stefanski publicly if he doesn't feel that same heat for Kevin Stefanski. I think this is all kind of circling that they can feel that things have changed internally, that certain channels of communication that used to be open to Kevin Stefanski are starting to shut down or have already shut down. You know, if you've had a job for a while, right? Some of my older folks in the chat or in the comment section can chip in. But if you've had a job for a while, you kind of know when they're starting to try to let you go, because it's not all at once, but things get cut off slowly but surely, right? You know, channels of communication that used to be no problem all of a sudden have a buffer in between them, and you got to speak to somebody else to speak to somebody you used to be able to speak to pretty easily, right? And all of this stuff kind of indicates or gives you the idea that it's time to get the hell out of here, because they probably about to get rid of me, or they're trying to figure out in the budget when it's going to be convenient to lay me off or something like that, right? That's kind of the vibe I think Kevin's getting, and I think that's kind of the vibe that the people in the building are getting. It would explain some of the reactions that you've seen from some of the specific people in the Browns organization, and it explained why you really haven't seen much of Andrew Berry lately, right? He didn't do his press conference in the middle of the season. Usually he's right there sitting next to Kevin doing some kind of press conference, two peas in a pot, right? But that separation has happened pretty starkly during the offseason and during the season in general. You just really haven't seen those two together. Like, have you noticed that? You haven't really seen Kevin and Andrew together. You see it all the time. You haven't really seen them together in a while, right? Like, there's just so many things that makes it feel like Kevin's being, pushed out, or at least you can kind of feel Kevin being pushed out. Now, again, if you want to debate whether this is the right decision or not, that's beyond the scope of this video. That's not what this video is about. But if you want to know why I think Kevin's getting fired, it's not just because I think he should get fired. It's also because of stuff like this. This is the main stuff that makes me think he's going to get fired, right? And just so you guys know, when I come on here and say, hey, I think this person is going to lose their job, I'm not operating off of what I think the team should do. That is not a reliable source of information, right? Too many people come on and say, well, I want the team to do this because this is what I think is right, and then frame it as if that's what they think the team's going to do. I try to separate what I think the team's going to do versus what I want the team to do. What I want the team to do is move on from Kevin. But the reason I think that the Browns are moving on from Kevin is everything that I've listed there, right? Like, it just feels like that's where things are going. It seems like that is the flow of the water right now with Kevin. There's been times where they're pointing towards a direction that I'm not a big fan of, but I got to be honest about that being what they're going to do, right? This is one where I'm a little bit more aligned with them, but that's what I think they're going to do. That's why I think they're going to make the decision that they're going to make, and why it is that I don't think Kevin is likely to survive. It feels like if Kevin were to survive these last 2 years, it would require a lot more institutional support than what he's gotten this year, right? Like, if the Browns really planned on rolling this thing out with Kevin, I would imagine that Andrew Berry would be side by side with him, that there would have been multiple reports talking about the Browns' undying faith in Kevin Stefanski, but there is a lack of institutional support behind Kevin this season that was not there last season when they were fully committed to Kevin. And I think that stuck out to me the most. You haven't gotten these reports that Kevin is safe. You're only hearing about Kevin's ability to get a new job, but you're not really hearing people defend Kevin's ability to do his current job. You've seen increased distance between Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. I imagine channels of communication that existed with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski suddenly aren't as clear or as responsive anymore. And you're feeling that when you hear Kevin answer and talk about it's a privilege to coach this team and how the future is uncertain, right? Because he probably feels that uncertainty with certain things not being what they've always been as far as relationships are concerned here with the front office. So that to me screams that Kevin's going to get fired at the end of the year. Will it be what's right for the Browns? We'll find out. But that's what I think we're looking at the end of the year. You let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.